Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Fablestan, and this is Kim. So, this video really doesn't have any objective. I just kind of feel called suddenly to talk about my life and just reflect on random things. Man, it's been like a crazy week, and by crazy, I mean extremely sick. I was sick with a cold, and I got a viral infection in my mouth, or rather I just have a virus infection, and then it hit my weakest area at the time, which was my mouth, because I went through a very rough dental cleaning, and the dental hygienist I think just kind of was really rough with my gums, and it was inflamed for a week, and then I got sick because I honestly didn't take care of myself enough. I blame myself for the little decisions that I failed to make, which was not dressing warm enough, not drinking enough water, and just little things as I got busy, and it was just really dumb. Like, honestly, like, it's just like a bunch of dumb things that made me got sick. And yeah, so I got sick, and I got a viral infection in my mouth, and I got like a canker sore breakout, and you do not want to hear how many canker sores were in my mouth. It was painful, like, but if you must know, it started with 12, and then it escalated to 40, and then it peaked, and then it stopped there, so thank God. It was like an apocalypse in my mouth. And yeah, it was really annoying because I went to see the family doctor. Actually, it was like a walk-in clinic because my family doctor wasn't working on that day. So I went to this walk-in clinic and I saw the doctor. I waited for like almost an hour, and the walk-in visit was over in like 30 seconds. I told the doctor what was going on. He's like, okay, do you have a fever? And I said no. I think that rules out if it's like a bacterial infection or not, which could be more serious. So then he said, okay, let me take a look at your mouth. So I opened my mouth and showed him, and it was like a bunch of canker sore. And basically what he said was, it's a viral infection. I can't, I don't know if it's the right term, like cauterize it, you know, when they kind of use this chemical to seal the wound. I can't really do that because it's too many. It's gonna actually end up hurting you. So just make sure you avoid anything acidic like citrus or anything spicy. Chew some ice cubes, and it'll be over in a week. I'll see you later. Or just never. And I guess like it made sense. But I was a little bit annoyed because I felt that he was kind of rude, because before he even finished talking, he just started to collect his things and he was like ready to walk out. So I was like kind of annoyed by that, but whatever. I got some information even though it was like 30 seconds. But yeah, and it was over in a week. It was terrible. I could not eat anything. I actually had to cancel work because I'm a private English tutor, and I literally, it was so painful. I could not talk. I could not. And I just feel so sick anyway. Like I did not have any energy. So I just stayed home for like a couple days until I could get back on track, and now I feel much better. Now like it doesn't hurt to talk anymore. Like I was actually planning to film a lot of my videos. Like I managed to film them like yesterday, or 2 days ago, but I couldn't. I wanted to do it earlier this week, but I couldn't because could not like physically manage the pain or just overcome the pain. It was just, and I think it would just made those canker sores worse anyway. Honestly, it was so gross, but I never want to go through that again. It's honestly like things like this make you really, like, it just made me really appreciate food, and being able to brush my teeth without bleeding, being able to brush my teeth without crying. it was my gums were inflamed, and there was like canker sores on my gums, and it was just terrible. And yeah, honestly, yeah, so that was my week. I was sick, and I managed to get some blog posts done because I was at home and I could do some writing, but I wasn't really productive because I wasn't as productive as I wanted to be, because I spent a lot of my time napping and yeah, and taking a break and resting and keeping warm and stuff like that. Yeah, getting sick sucks, man. I think it's just like, it just really made me ultra aware of the little decisions that I make every day. You know, when I go out, the decision to not wear a thicker scarf, or the decision to not wear an extra layer, and then the decision to not drink an extra cup of water at a certain hour when I was thirsty. It just, everything kind of adds up, and it comes back to bite you in the ass. And especially when it comes to health, it just, honestly, it just like things like this, it just makes you appreciate the moments when you're healthy, and then makes you regret a little bit about the decisions that you made and didn't make when you were healthy. It's just, everything counts. I think just every little decision counts in life. So I'm saying it's just, if you need to wear an extra layer, do it. If you need to drink the extra cup of water, do it. Otherwise, you're probably going to regret it later. And, you know, it's better safe. It's better to take care of yourself in little ways, in holistic ways, than having like this relapse or this sort of meltdown of your immune system once it reaches like a certain point. Yeah, but enough about my sickness. I was actually thinking, I'm clipping my hair because it's like really annoying right now. Like it's just in my face. I'm like really resisting the urge to go to my hairdresser because I really want to cut my hair. I really want to layer it because it's kind of like bleh. But then, you know, I'm growing it, so I want to grow all the hair so I could actually tie it up and do some styling when it's long. Because if I layer it, then it's not going to stay up if I tie it. So yeah, I'm growing my hair. It's significantly longer now. It's like longer than my chin. And this part's really annoying. I like, what was it called again? Like a hair mullet or like a hair growth mullet or short hair mullet. I don't know. It just like, I'm growing my hair. This is like the awkward stage. So I'm just bearing with it really. And the biotin gummies, I don't know if they're helping. I mean, my nails are growing really fast, so I assume that it's helping me on the whole everywhere, but honestly I can't really tell. I think my hair growth just naturally slow. I think my metabolism is just naturally slow. So I just have to suck it up. But the biotin gummies are really yummy. They're like strawberry flavored, so whatever. But yeah, actually, like, I was thinking about this other thing. I was thinking about, I was thinking about how I see the world. Sorry, just like randomly just jumped into this very deep topic. I was thinking about how I see the world, and I was reflecting on, because you know, I'm running a tarot course right now, and then it really makes me think about how I interpret the tarot cards and my own approaches when it comes to the tarot cards. And I'm also doing a lot of deck study on the side, and it just makes me ultra aware of how other people interpret their cards and what they bring to the table and that kind of thing. So I think I'm just really in the mood to reflect on my thoughts on tarot, to reflect on my thoughts about the world, because you know, like your own attitudes and thoughts and ideas towards tarot is really your own thoughts about the world, about how the world works, about how you think life means, about how you live your life, because tarot is it's a system of symbolism, and those symbolism can only hold meaning when you attribute meaning to them, and those meanings are inherent reflections of your values and your core values and your principles. So anyway, I just got, and plus like a lot of stuff in my personal life too that I'm dealing with just made me think about, so how do I see the world? Like usually I'm pretty clear about how I see the world. Like I know I'm generally really positive, you know, I like to look at things from a place of strength. I like to gamify. I like to, by strength I mean like when you encounter challenges, it's those challenges are meant to, like, they're kind of opportunities for you to tap into your own strength to solve the problems in your life. La-di-da, la-di-da. So anyway, how this got started was actually started with Deviant Moon Tarot. I know, like, I've always known that this deck existed, like, for the longest time. I knew, like, it was a thing, and then I remember when I first saw it, I was really disturbed by the images. I like to explore darkness. I remember I was really into Gothic literature and Gothic ideas and symbolism. When I was in high school, I was like a lonely teenager. It was kind of awkward and slightly angsty. So I think those dark energies and those dark symbolism really attracted me because they reflected my life at the time. But I don't know, but I think, yeah, and then later on in life, when I started really practicing tarot, when I, you know, after university, you know, like, sort of gaining this global consciousness, learning about society and culture, my perspective was broadened, and I kind of had different views on how life should be and how I should live my life. And I think the general idea of who I am and how I see the world is I'm generally like a pretty positive person. I like to look at things with a lighthearted lens, and I like to look at things as opportunities and challenges that are supposed to help us, that are meant to help us develop ourselves and develop our strengths. So I kind of view everything in me and everything that happens to me in that lens. So with challenges and difficulties in life, I would always see them as a chance to, you know, to grow, to learn, and to develop myself. So I'm really into like personal development, self-development, that kind of thing. And so back to Deviant Moon, I was initially very disturbed by it, and I kind of held that opinion for many years until recently it started to sort of resurface into my life, because I'm one of the admins in Tarot Nerds. It's like a Facebook tarot study group. And sometimes I would notice like a lot of people are talking about Deviant Moon, you know, when people ask about like, oh, does anyone have any recommendations for dark tarot decks or tarot decks with really dark images and symbolism? Deviant Moon would inevitably always come up, and a lot of people talk about Deviant Moon, and I started joking about Deviant Moon that it's, you know, it's like really blunt and direct and cuts straight through your bullshit. That's what I heard. And I started to look at these images again, and I'm still kind of disturbed, but right now something's different. Like there's this sort of intrigue, like there's this sort of mystery. It's kind of like calling out to me. It's sort of I don't know what's like, it's sort of like asking me to go on a journey with it. And then I've just been thinking about Deviant Moon a lot, increasingly so, like just recently, because I've been like having a lot of gruesome nightmares. You know, like I usually don't, and you know, usually my dreams are pretty weird, and a lot of times they have symbolism that will help me unpack the things that are happening in my life, stuff like that. Sometimes I have dreams about my spirit guides, or something that is more like journeying and astrally in nature. But I never had nightmares where there's like a lot of blood, and there's like a lot of violence and horror and darkness. Usually the dreams that stress me out would be like me being chased down by zombies, and I know that's my stress dream because zombies represent something so helpless and just stressful and demeaning, and then it's just sort of my symbolism for the challenges that I encounter in life, because often there's just the passivity like in the past. Yeah, I still have those zombie dreams sometimes, but usually I would have a weapon, and then usually I would. Anyway, that's a different video, how my dreams and symbols evolved. But anyway, my point is I've been having a lot of gruesome dreams, a lot of violent dreams. It's literally like horror movies playing in my head with HD details about people getting stabbed and people getting cut open. And I think this started to happen. I think my dreams became more gruesome in detail, like my nightmares specifically became more gruesome in detail when I started to experience more challenges in life. So I think that makes sense, because I think the more dark shit you have in your life, your dreams get darker to reflect the emotions and the shadows or whatever it is that's sort of happening in your life. That all those energies in your life will be captured by dark symbolism. And I think I'm having a lot of gruesome dreams, a lot. Because my father passed away in 2016 from cancer, and I have to witness this whole process of him getting sick, going through surgery, and until his last moment. And it was just like very traumatic, very sad, very in a way it was a very violent experience, because it impacted me so much. It really changed how I saw the world. I had really bad anxieties after. And I was like, I wouldn't say I was depressed, because my family is really supportive, so I didn't really feel depressed, but I just have really bad anxiety issues after. And anyway, it just sucked, to say the least. So I think those feelings are reflected in my dreams, and all these sort of dark, like these sorrow and darkness that stem from what I witnessed. You know, facing death in the face, just facing death, confronted by death, and the mortality and the sickness of humanity, of someone close to you. It was really dark, like dark and solemn and heavy, and it was full of dark gravity, you know. And I think maybe that's why. I think maybe that's why the deck is calling to me, because I think I'm being called to explore that side of things, because come to think of it, like in my upbringing, I'm a pretty well protected, well supported, well loved child. It was all life and I had a life full of unicorns and light and rainbows. Like I had a really good sheltered, protected, and loved life. I didn't I didn't really experience a lot of shit when I was growing up. You know, it was just my environment was pretty simple, which is my family, friends, school, what I wanted to do, and then I had my own insecurities and everything. But honestly, it wasn't that bad. Like I had a pretty good life, to be honest. It wasn't until after I graduated university, you know, when you're an adult, things just get more complicated and you become more aware of the dynamics in your relationships and your friendships. You know, you're not just trying to make friends or seek approval anymore. You know, you just start to work on, as you become more empowered, you want to break away from the negative influences there in your life. Like for me, it's always been a journey of recognizing the negative influences in my life and breaking away from them. So that was most of my journey, and that's a gross simplification of what I went through, but that's kind of the gist of it. That's like also not a video, I suppose, but I think what I'm trying to say is, like, I think just throughout my life I never really didn't really have the chance to encounter or confront something so dark and so full of weight. And maybe that's why I found Deviant Moon so disturbing, because it was something so unfamiliar. It was so alien. It wasn't something that I really experienced. So it was really outside of my experience. So the symbolism doesn't speak to me. It didn't really make sense. It was dark and scary because it didn't really, and I think another reason why might be it didn't really jam with the way I saw the world, or just kind of my mode, my way of being. I just feel like I've always been a positive person, and I think a lot of the negative sort of details just sort of don't really have as much impact. And this led me to another thing that I want to talk about. Is I remember checking the YouTube comments. Thank you for commenting, by the way. Like every time I see a comment, I'm just like, I'm talking to someone. I remember checking comments underneath my tarot story video, which was the video I made for Fool's Journey, in which I talk about the major arcana card in the framework, storytelling framework of the Fool's Journey. And some guy commented about what I said about the Fool or something, and he was like, oh, so you just made this card like light and fluffy, so you kind of just skipped all the negative stuff. That wasn't exactly what he said, but you know, that was kind of like what he meant. And I really started thinking about that. I don't think I have the habit of bypassing negativity in life, but I think now that I think of it, it is true that it is something that I'm more detached about. It's something that, because I've never really, like I said, I had a pretty good life, I had a pretty simple life, and I had my struggles and everything, and I don't know, I just feel like maybe it's just the way I look at my life. I just never thought it was negative. I mean, if you were just to just look at the facts, a lot of negative shit happens. But I don't know, I just never saw those things I just never let those things define my life. I just focus on how I would define my life narrative would be how I've grown, how I overcame my challenges, how I became more authentic. So it was always centered around my own personal development. It wasn't really about overcoming, you know, facing the darkness or overcoming. I mean, I overcame a lot of challenges, but I think what I mean is, like, it was never, my experiences were never framed with a negativity, or were never really defined by the negativity. It was always about what I had to learn, what I had to confront within myself, what I had to do, in order to become more empowered, or to heal, or to problem solve this relationship, or to become a better communicator. So it was always centered around my own growth. So that's how I saw my life for the most part. So that's why, like, when people ask me, like, that's why it's really hard for me to relate to people when they, or just relate to images or ideas that sort of posit life as something inherently difficult and insurmountable and challenging, and that it's very dark, and that there's a lot of lessons that we have to learn from our mistakes. And even with the word lesson, you know, I think usually there's this negative connotation to it, like it's almost like admonishing. You know, it's like, well, you learn your lesson now, you learned from your mistake, you better not do it again. But for me, it's always like, oh, so I learned from my lesson, I've grown into a better person, become a better problem solver, and that kind of thing. You know, leveling up, right? It's always a positive thing for me. Like, you know, like the struggle didn't really matter as much, all the negative things that I faced didn't really matter as much. All the challenging times, challenging emotions that I went through didn't really matter as much, as long as I've learned something from it, as long as I've grown from it. So so I'm just thinking, like, do I bypass negativity? Would this be considered bypassing, or does it just make me like a positive person? And does being positive mean you're bypassing negativity? I don't think so. I mean, at least in my head, I don't feel like that's the case. But I think I am at a point in my life where I'm called to explore. I wouldn't say explore negativity like for the sake of doing it, but I would say, like, I think I'm called to really understand negativity, or to understand the darker forces and the darker energies and some of my darker experiences, instead of just focusing on, oh, what I've learned, how I've grown, because that's kind of my worldview, that's sort of my mode, right? That's sort of my function or program, that's my programming. And I just feel like there's this need to explore another perspective. There's this need to really understand how these dark forces are impacting me, because throughout my entire life, I think some of the problems that I faced would have been solved quicker if I just really sat with those feelings and understood how, like, and then just really come to the understanding that those feelings were actually an indication of that I was being hurt. Oh shoot, the battery is dying. Ben! Where's the charger for the camera? It's dying and I'm filming. Where? Don't die. Don't die on me. I'm always running into technical difficulties, which is due to the fact that I didn't charge it after I filmed like 4 videos. Okay, it's plugged in. I'm safe. Anyway, what was I saying? I was saying that I'm called to explore these darker narratives in depth and in more detail, and see what I can learn from them. So it'll be like a different way of learning, instead of just trying to focus on moving on, cultivating power, authenticity, and that kind of thing. Now that I think of it, maybe I've been a little bit bypassy with negativity. But I think one thing I know for sure is I don't think it was because I was in denial that I didn't want to face those negative things because of this rejection of reality, or it wasn't because I was consciously or subconsciously not wanting to face those things. I feel like the issues that I faced that made me passive, or that made me not acknowledge those disturbing or traumatizing things in my life, maybe it's just because, like, it doesn't feel like bypassing. Like, you know, I'm just like thinking out loud here. I don't know what you think, like maybe a little bit, but I know like sometimes people would say like I'm being overly fluffy with tarot cards because I'm like not addressing the darker aspects. I don't know, I feel like I'm talking about the darker aspects, but I wouldn't say like it's an act of bypassing if I'm just focusing on the more practical, I don't know if it's practical, but just if I'm focusing on, like I said, cultivating power and confronting those challenges. So I'm not running away from my problems, per se. I think maybe it's just like, it's not something that I'm very used to, because it's not. When I was, I don't know, I feel like it's really complicated. I think there were definitely darkness, even in my childhood. You know, I went through humiliation at school, went through bullying, went through, I think if you really, if you just said it like said it out loud, like plot events. I think it sounded kind of shitty, but I don't know. I never felt like that should define my life. You know, I never felt like it made me like a more terrible person or a more that it was less deserving. I mean, I did have to go through a lot of issues and like my own journey with self-love and finding my self-worth and that kind of thing, but it never really defined my life, you know. I feel like I just had this inherent strength to keep going and to keep trying and to keep communicating with the people that I love. And I don't know if that's an act of courage or if that's really bypassing negativity or spiritual bypassing, or I don't know what my perspective, I don't know how to call this perspective, like just leveling up, I don't know, power centered, I don't really know, is there a term? I know like some people are just naturally like, you know what I'm talking about, like they're, you know, like they're like, I don't know, like I'm just thinking of like Jessie Houghtonberg, because she's just like, to me, she's really like goddess in the flesh. Like if you look at her videos, like I just honestly don't know how else to describe her, and she really is like an embodiment of love and light, but in a way that's like oh, my hair clip is falling. But in a way that's like I don't know, let shit be shit. Let shit be shit, but whatever. Like there's still like it's like part of the beauty or that kind of thing. And then I think about Kellyanne Maddox, she's like one of my tarot heroes. And she's just like a wise, sassy unicorn. Always throwing out punchlines, always throwing out cosmic truths that help people nurture themselves better and stuff like that. And then I think about Ethany, you know, like all my tarot heroes, right? Ethany is really like also very sassy, and then she's like what's the word? Like she's also very witty, very poignant, but also like what's the word? Like it's not exactly adorable, but there's kind of like an adorable vibe, but at the same time it's like she means business kind of thing. Like I'm still looking for like a descriptor for her, but yeah, like I love her. And then I'm just thinking about what kind of tarot reader I am. I'm just thinking about what kind of person I am. Just thinking about what kind of messages I'm sending out, you know. I just think about that sometimes. And I wonder, like, sometimes I even think about, like, I want to host this grand Q&A and then just ask people, like, what do you think of me? But then that just feels so, like, attention seeking. I don't know. I just sometimes I wonder, because I've been creating a lot of content. It's out in the public, it's out in the net. So sometimes I just think about how all the things I put out become like an expression of who I am. Because sometimes the things that you want to express, the things that you understand about yourselves, sometimes it becomes something different in the eyes of your beholder. Like, for example, like I'm known to be, to a lot of people, for my doodles on my Instagram, because I do a lot of cute comics and stuff, I'm known to be like adorable and funny as fuck. So it wasn't like, I knew like parts of me that I would consider adorable and cute. I would consider myself as funny for certain things. Like I like to kind of contrast really dark things with like something so trivial to kind of exaggerate that nonsensical space. So that's kind of my sense of humor. For example, I would pair the tarot card with stepping on a Lego, which is absolutely traumatic, right? But then if you think about it, it's really just a Lego piece, which is kind of like life, you know. A lot of things in life seem really traumatic, but in hindsight, or just when that moment passes, it's just really something funny. It's just something that you went through. Maybe that's my view. I don't know. Maybe that's my view. Maybe I'm just a lighthearted person and I just think like life is absurd, and we shouldn't take life too seriously. We shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. We just focus on what can be done. We just focus on just keep growing, just keep living life, right? Just keep moving, you know, like in a good way, not in like a way that's like you're like a drone or zombie or just walking down the lane without a brain, right? I don't know, maybe that's my thing. Maybe that's what I am. Maybe that's what I'm about. Like, cause like, if you think about it, every tarot reader or every sort of spirit-centered businesses out there, or all these presences they all have like a core identity. Like they have this worldview that people can resonate with, or this specific sort of, I don't want to say program, but it's sort of like just the things they believe in, the things that define them as a person, become what they're known for, become their identity that's projected to us. I don't mean projected as in like it's cult, like it's fake, or I just mean, or it's sort of some sort of shadowy stuff, but I just mean like, you know, I think there's something magical happens when you put yourself out there and you are being perceived. Like in that space between you and your perceiver, it's when your perception of the world intermingles and interchanges and interacts with their version or their perception of the world, and together you kind of become something else. You know, you get sort of, I don't know, filtered or it's like this process of co-creation. Like you're not just you, you're also people's perception of you, and in a way, like like that's not a superficial thing, like being perceived in a certain way, because people are going to perceive you in a certain way. It's kind of like the way I perceive my tarot heroes like Kellyanne Maddox or Jessie Hardenberg or Ethne might be totally different from the way they understand themselves. Like I called Kellyanne Maddox like a white sassy unicorn. I don't know if she would necessarily identify with that. Like she would maybe say, oh, it's like a fun thing, and it's like maybe like a compliment, or it's just like, yeah, I can kind of resonate with that a little bit, but I don't know if that would be the core metaphor that she would pick for herself to represent her. You know what I mean? It's kind of like something magical happens in between these spaces of interaction. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, yeah, I guess that's what I have so far. Do I have anything else that I want to vlog about? I want to do like a mindfulness challenge. I think I'm gonna collaborate with the Modern Gypsy on that. Don't know when it's gonna come out. Possibly October, later on in 2018. But I want to do like a personal one in March, just because I feel like I've been practicing mindfulness in my emotions and my self-awareness in a lot of areas in my life, but I just never really actively sort of used this paradigm and lived this paradigm like on a holistic level. I just sort of, I think I use different languages to tap into similar concepts of mindfulness, such as emotional awareness and that kind of thing, but I never really practiced. I wanted to practice mindfulness in little things in life. For example, I've been trying to be more mindful when I'm eating, which honestly is magic, because I have digestion issues, and then my stomach is not like in its best shape, but this all just got solved from mindful eating, because I realized that I was overeating sometimes. Not because I had cravings, just because I was just like on my phone or watching YouTube or reading a book when I was eating, and I just kind of forget how much I'm eating, and I just end up overeating. And I just also, when I'm like really distracted, I would just eat really fast and not chew my food properly and just swallow before I chew my food. That would cause me digestion issues. It would give me a lot of gas, and I just like a lot of minor discomforts that I sort of managed to live with, but never realized that it was like, it could be better, I guess. Like it was amazing. Like just being mindful of, like just sitting there being mindful of my food and how I was eating them, and slowing down to enjoy the food, or just, even if it's just the same food over and over, you just slow down to eat. That was magical. Like honestly, it's just like this tiny thing. And I'm always also trying to be more mindful when it comes to focus. You know, when you're calling in like the Suit of Swords energy or the air energy, when you're trying to focus, when you're trying to train your mind to break out of certain habits, being mindful is so it's so helpful, because sometimes when you're trying to break a habit, when you realize that there's a lot of sort of self-criticism that could go on, because you would just be like, this is something so easy, why can't you just do it? But when you understand that there's certain mental patterns that have congregated in your mind, that it just became a habit, right? You just got so used to it, so it became like a program in your head. Like it just built all these train tracks for your train of thoughts to go down, and it's just because you've never, it's like muscle memory. It's just because you're never used to thinking like in a different way. So that's why you're just stuck in that habit. So when you're mindful of this fact, when you're mindful of that, this is something that you have to gradually get used to. This is something you can get used to new things just by doing it repeatedly. And it's okay if you mess up like a day, or if you kind of break the habit for once or twice, but being mindful of the process and just being mindful of the way how your brain works, it just really gives you a lot of confidence when it comes to trying to make new changes in life, because you just feel like, I understand this is just how my brain works. I can do better. I will do better. And everything's going to be great if I just keep at this. So I think practicing mindfulness gives you a lot of self-compassion and self-understanding. Like it gives you insight into a lot of processes that you don't normally consider, like little things like eating, or trying to not snooze so much, or you know, just like little things. Like I used to think like washing dishes is supremely boring. Like my screensaver just goes on, and then I lose focus, and then you know when you do that, for some reason your brain just gets tired. Like you just want to sleep for some reason. It's kind of like your brain saying like, you know, I have nothing to focus on. There's nothing to do here, so I'm just gonna go take a nap. Like literally, like, but being mindful of that, it's like, oh, I'm a bit sleepy right now, not because I'm actually tired, it's just because I'm distracted and I'm not focused, and that I'm zoning out, or I'm just, the screensaver is on in my head. It just like, I don't know, it just gives you a lot of clarity and calmness, and just it really helps you stay in the now. So practicing mindfulness, I mean, I literally just started doing like 2 things, just mindful eating and just being mindful of how my brain works, and it's just already doing wonders in my life. So yeah, I think you should totally try it, especially the eating part. I know like in an urban setting, usually we want to get, you know, it's not like a priority to slow down when you're eating, but I think it's a good thing to do. I'm gonna drink some of my tea. I'm so happy that I could drink tea. Like, you know, because I couldn't drink anything hot earlier this week because of all the canker sores, and I didn't, technically I could just wait until it's cooled down, but I didn't want to take any chances because there's some caffeine in black tea, and I didn't want caffeine to upset the inflammation even more. But I asked the doctor, he said caffeine is fine. I think it's just if you drink coffee, it's a bit acidic, so it might upset your canker sores. But I think tea can actually be a bit therapeutic, according to this internet article when I was looking for excuses to drink tea. I didn't cave in though. I started drinking when all the inflammation like left, so I just kind of, just so grateful for tea now. Honestly, you have no idea. This is something I drink every day, but you just don't realize how much you had until you lost it. So speaking of business and expansion and developing, like I want to show you this book that I'm reading. Oh, it's too far. No. So I'm reading this book. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm pretty sure that you've seen this book in your bookstore or just somewhere. It's really interesting. It's really, I just thought it's going to be another raw productivity book, like 12-week year, which I just try to read. I didn't completely finish it. So actually let me talk about 12-week year, because it was like so much hype around it, and it was like, you can do, you don't have to structure your life annually, because it's an outdated annualized thinking. You should structure your project or your workflow with this thing called a 12-week year. So basically like a 90-day cycle in which you things cycle through faster, you can be more productive, it's more urgent, it's more sort of like you're more able to yeah, that sense of urgency is a big one, and you can be more, basically be more smarter when it comes to time management and how you want to execute your ideas. So I read it. I liked the first chapter because it was very motivating. I just feel like it doesn't have a lot of hands-on practical stuff where it actually helps you plan your week and set your goals. It just uses this one example over and over. I'm just like, I've seen this chart 5 times and it's not adding to anything that I know so far. I don't know, maybe it's because I've read a lot of these productivity and motivational literature, so maybe it's just like nothing nothing new, but I did feel like it was a bit stingy with the practical and hands-on part, which is probably because they want to publish a workbook and sell for $40, which is probably why they want to keep all the hands-on and practical stuff there. But I don't know, I just thought the book didn't have the value that I wanted to have, so I returned I returned it. That's the beauty of return policies. You can just return it if you don't like something. But anyway, so I started reading this book. I actually bought this book a while ago at Costco because it was on sale, and I was like, oh hey, like a lot of people talk about this book, and this book has been published over and over and over. I've been seeing this book in the periphery of my vision. It's always in the local bookstore. It's always in the productivity and wellness section. I'm like, what is this book about? So I bought it, and I haven't read it. Like after I bought it, I just left it there untouched for maybe 2 years, maybe a year and a half. Just been like sitting on my shelf, and recently I've been really revamping my life, like just even more. I just, throughout my life I spent a lot of time exploring my relationship dynamics, my own insecurities and self-worth and self-love, lots of spiritual lessons. But it's almost like I'm moving to the material plane where I need to learn how to better execute my ideas and manage my time and resources. So it's kind of like a reverse journey. Like you hear a lot of success stories or people who end up doing life coaching and stuff. Like they have this really successful career and then they crash because they didn't really realize what was important in their life, that they didn't have a purpose. And then they kind of have to find themselves again and they rebuild their life. I just feel like I have a reverse journey. I just like throughout my entire life up until now that I've been working on myself and how I see the world and how I engage with others and how I build relationships with others and finding what my purpose is. And now it's just sort of escalating towards like now I need to really manifest this purpose in the material plane. Like I need to make it happen. So anyway, it's all good. I think everybody's journey is different. Everybody's cycle is different. I know this is something I constantly struggle with because I just feel like sometimes when I look at my peers, I would think, oh, I'm not as successful as them yet, or I have all these sort of things that I lack in my life. But then, I don't know, I think everyone develops it differently. It's like if you're a character in a game, or if you're like a hero in the game, you develop your stats in different ways. It's like, and it depends on how you choose to engage your hero or your character, right? You might want to grind on this particular skill set more because that's where your focus is at the time. And then later on, you can focus on this area. So it's kind of like just what you choose to focus on in your lifetime. Like you really don't have to measure your progress with anybody else's because everyone's focus is different. Everyone's priorities are different. Everyone has a different life and how they want to live their life. So yeah, I think I got a lot of solace from that. It's like, it's not like a conventional sort of path. Like, it's not like, oh, I got like a job right away after university and then I just climb my way up from there. That's the conventional narrative, right? Like for me, it took a lot of time I took a lot of time focusing on myself and my own self-worth and what I wanted to do with my life. So I guess it's all good, right? It's also not a video. It's a long story, but I wanted to talk about this book and it's great. I thought it was just going to be like a typical, like you need to prioritize whatever productivity book. But this is actually a very spiritual book in the sense that it tells you you have to work on how you perceive yourself. You have to work on your paradigm and you need to focus on the things you can do and be proactive instead of reactive. So I feel like this is the language that most people understand, like the typical sort of productivity language, the language of success or motivational information or materials to help people achieve their success. And it talks a lot about paradigm shifts and working on your attitudes and stuff. So like in spiritual terms, it would be like doing shadow work, practicing self-love, coming to the seat of power. All the same thing, just different languages, just different, same material, same core, just a different face, different shape, different form, but the energy is the same. Like it's the same principle, which is what this book primarily talks about. It's the 7 principles, not habits. I think they put habits on the cover because it's something that's more relatable, but it's really talking about the principles that you need to have, the character principles that you need to have when it comes to being a successful person. Like I just got to this chapter of it tells you, talks about being proactive and reactive, and then it has this like really clever, really insightful illustration. It's called a circle of concern versus a circle of influence. So, as you can see, this is a proactive person's circle. You have your circle of concern, but a proactive person would focus on the things that they can change and that can actually impact. So their circle of influence expands because they focus on the things that they can do, and it sort of overrides the circle of concern. Yeah. So then you have more influence over the things you're concerned about by focusing on what you actually have power over. But a reactive person would have a bigger circle of concern and the smaller circle of influence because they only focus on the concern. So this leads to like self-victimizing, being passive, being really passive-aggressive, being just, you just complain about the world. It's always something wrong that's been done to you. It's never something that you can do to change the situation. So this one is really like you're abdicating your power to choose and to choose to focus on the things that you can change. So your power of influence, your circle of influence becomes smaller. So ideally we want to be here and we want to be constantly expanding. And this just makes a lot of sense to me because expanding is a word that a lot of tarot tubers use, a lot of spiritpreneurs use, a lot of teachers out there use. We talk about expanding and can mean a lot of different things, but one of it is expanding our sphere and circle of influence, which is how we are able to impact the way we live our life. Anyway, this book is just really great. Like, I thought it would just be like a more mainstream thing, if you think about productivity books. But it's actually like, it has a lot of philosophies in it, a lot of principles, a lot of like overlap with spiritual narratives that people are usually exposed to. I think it's presented in a different way. Like instead of shadow work, it talks about like doing paradigm shifts. Instead of expanding or instead of like empowerment or self-love, it talks about the circle of influence or the circle of concern. Like it's like a lot of language or motivational speeches, but it just makes so much sense. Like there's a lot of depth to this book. Like it's not just like just do it. It's not just like you just have to like do it. Instead of you just have to like fight the fear, do it, chase your dreams, conquer the world. Like I think those motivational speeches are really good at helping you generate momentum or helping you, giving you that spark. But like it's like this book is sort of takes you past that and how you can continue to build on the initial inspiration and cultivate a better life. Anyway, it feels like a book review or whatever, but I'm just randomly vlogging, whatever. Yeah, but yeah, life is good. Life is good. Even when it's not, you just have to believe that you have the power to make things better. Like I think that's what's important in life. And circling back to my conundrum in the beginning, like maybe that's just my worldview. Like I'm not like a negativity bypasser. I'm not particularly fluffy. I think I used that word to describe myself, but it didn't really sit right with me. I was reading this blog post I wrote about determinism and fatalism and free will, and because I'm studying like phantasmagoric theater tarot right now, and it has to do with determinism and fatalism. And I talked about how I'm like my DNA is wired with fluffy and sunflowers. I think sunflowers is something I can live with more because sunflowers can grow anywhere. It's like a very powerful plant. And do you know how tall can a sunflower grow? Like it's tall as fuck. And it's like, it's like it really grows, man. So, but yeah, I don't think I really jam with the word fluffy. I don't know if I would describe myself as fluffy. I think the word fluffy also carries like this sort of like, oh, you just bypass all the negative stuff. You just want to look at all the light stuff and you don't want to face the bad things in life. So that's not really who I am either. So maybe a sunflower is a accurate metaphor for my worldview and how I see the world. And I think I'm just naturally attracted to sunflowers anyway. Like there's a fake sunflower on my desk because I wanted to keep it there to remind myself to always be inspired, be creative, and always focus on the positive things in life and appreciate the positive things in life. Always look into the light and reflect on what you can do to be better and stuff like that. Yeah, what else do I want to talk about? This video is getting really long, so if you're still watching at this point, hi. sometimes I just think like, oh, are people even interested in my life, or are they just interested in my tarot content? But then I think about myself, and then I think about how I follow my tarot YouTubers, like if Kelly and Maddox or Jessie Hunberg or Ethany or Pamela Chan, like all these my favorite tarot people or spiritual people online, if they just made a 1-hour video about like random things about her life, I would probably tune in just because like I really like them as individuals. So maybe anyway, maybe this is one of those self-critical things where I'm just like, no one's interested in my life. Well, yeah, so if you're still watching, thank you. Thank you for watching. And you might think that this video is gonna end, but I actually have one more thing that I wanted to talk about, which is my ukulele. I've been practicing ukulele again, actually like regularly and daily practicing. Just when I first got a ukulele, I was really excited because I just feel like this is the perfect instrument. It's portable, it's whimsical, it's lighthearted. It's so perfectly me, and it's just perfect for my really skinny fingers because I can't hold down the strings of a guitar. But now that I discovered that I can actually get a travel size guitar, just like a mini or smaller size guitar designed for people like me with a smaller build. So I think after I master my ukulele, I'm definitely thinking of getting a guitar, and then I'm going to branch into electric guitar because it's always been a dream of mine to play electric guitar. Not really into like the hard rock and roll, but I'm really into like jazz, but a lot of post-rock, a lot of like light sort of drifty, daydreamy music. I might just post a few links down in like the description box just to show you like what kind of electric guitar I want to play. Blues guitar, if you don't know Alabama Shakes, they played the, you know, the song they play at the Grammys or the Music Awards, I forgot. Oh my god, that's the song that made me think to myself that it's kind of like I need to own an electric guitar and be able to play it somewhere down my timeline in my life. That's like the song. I think I'll just leave that song in the description box. But yeah, I've been practicing my ukulele. I don't know if you watch Steven Universe. It's a great cartoon. I know like it's really silly, seems like a kid's cartoon, but it actually has a lot of mature spiritual themes in there. It has a lot of LGBTQ themes, a lot of stuff about life, relationships, family, friendship, and trauma, grieving for a parent, surprisingly, and then it's a kid's show. And there's just so much good motifs in there. I strongly recommend that show. One of the reasons why I like that show so much is because it's full of amazingly written ukulele songs by Rebecca Sugar. I think she also did a lot of songs for Adventure Time, and she's just great. Like, she's just Queen Rebecca Sugar, right? And I've been practicing a lot of Steven Universe songs, and then these are some of the common chords that are used in her songs. It's just something you pick up after playing like a lot of it. Like there's the this one, I think it's I forgot what it's called, to be honest. And then there's this one, and then there's this one, and this one. That's G7. I know that one. Oops. I think this is E-7. Oh, they just sound so whimsical and carefree. I love these chords. I'm working on a song. I love songwriting too. If you haven't heard my tarot rap, I think it's some tarot rap. That's something I want to do it again. I want to like practice it even more and then give it more oomph and actually work on my breathing. I was running out of breath towards the end of that song, and I was just like, ah. Anyway, it was my first attempt. I want to do it again with maybe with a proper music video and like more gangster clothes or something. More oomph for that rap. Also working on a song about the star card in tarot using these chords, and I'm still working on the lyrics. I'm not gonna sing it, but yeah. And this one, I really like this chord. Wait, that's not this one. Maybe this one. No, I fucked up. Nah, whatever. I also really like D minor. And A minor. So it just sounds so sad. It's like a mystical forest. It's like separated by it's like you're fairy and humans separated by space-time and magical barriers. You can't be together because you just can't coexist. Ah, so sad, so beautiful. Anyway, I think that's all I want to talk about. I've been sitting on the floor for I don't know how long. I think this video is like almost an hour. Not sure, but thank you for listening to my story and this vlog. Got like really meandering and babbly, but it's a vlog, so I don't care. You're not obligated to watch. I mean, you're not obligated to watch any of my videos, so thank you. Sometimes I just think to myself, like, how did these people find me? Like, why do they like me? Like, not in the way that's sort of self-hating, but I just kind of like think about like, what are they resonating with? You know, it's just like, it's just so interesting to me, because I think about how I find readers that I resonate with online, and I'm just actively participating in their stuff, and I would purchase their readings and support them and support their creative ventures. And I'm just like, how is that connection made? Is it just like, I don't know, it's just literally just because like I like your stuff and I like you. Is it just, maybe it's just that, you know, maybe it's just that. Like, I could probably say this to all the tarot readers I like if they ask me, like, oh, why do you follow me? It's because I like you, I like your stuff, and your stuff is very helpful, and you're very inspiring, and you make me laugh, you make me cry, you make me feel hope, potential, light. You give me a lot of good things. I'm tearing up for some reason. But I don't know, I think it's great that we live in an age of internet, that we're able to find each other. Maybe that's the whole thing, that we're able to find each other and then just support each other, even though we have never met before in real life. I think it's wonderful. But yeah, thank you for listening to this really, really, really long blog. I recommend a cup of tea. Sorry, that's kind of random, but I recommend tea. Tea is amazing. And yeah, I think that's it for now. So I will see you next time. Check out my other videos. Thank you again for watching my videos and reading my blog and stuff. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I still can't believe you listened or watched this video all the way from the beginning to the end. Like, I don't even know what I said. I talked about my worldviews. I think that was the main thing I wanted to say. And also, I just wanted to gross people out with my Canker source story. It's too bad that I didn't take a picture and I could have posted it here. Oh, clickbait! Okay, no, seriously, bye. Bye, bye, have a good life. That sounded like a final goodbye, so no, it sounded like a final goodbye. No, just like, enjoy your weekend. Have a good weekend.